The transport ship landed on Zephyria Prime with a loud crash that shook the ground for miles. Jake Harrison stepped out first, looking up at the purple sky and 3 bright suns hanging overhead. The air felt thick and heavy, nothing like Earth's atmosphere. Behind him came Lisa Monroe and Rick Thompson, both carrying large metal cases filled with Earth specimens. Jake had never seen buildings so tall. The alien structures reached up into the clouds, made from some kind of blue crystal. That caught the sunlight and threw rainbows everywhere. Students moved between the buildings, but these were not human students. The Corthony stood 12 feet tall, their bodies made of living crystal that sparkled in the light. When they walked, the ground shook slightly under their weight. "Welcome to our university," said a deep voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. A massive Corthony approached them, wearing what looked like a professor's robe made from metal threads. "I am Professor Velthara Cornus. You must be the humans from the exchange program." Jake stepped forward and tried not to feel small next to the giant alien. "Yes, I'm Jake Harrison. This is Lisa Monroe and Rick Thompson. We're excited to be here." Professor Velthara looked down at them with eyes that glowed like blue fire. "We shall see how much you can teach our students about your primitive world. Follow me." They walked through the campus, and Jake noticed how the other Corthony stared at them. Some pointed and made sounds that might have been laughter. A group of young Corthony students gathered around them, their crystal bodies catching the light as they moved. "These are the creatures from Earth?" asked one student, bending down to get a closer look. "They look so soft and weak." "I am Zektar." "More vain," the student continued. "I study the biology of different worlds. Your planet must be very safe if such fragile beings can survive there." Rick stepped forward, holding up one of his specimen cases. "Actually, Earth is quite dangerous. That's why we brought some examples to show you." Another student, even larger than the first, laughed with a sound like breaking glass. "I am Crozan Valduz, and I am training to be a warrior. What could possibly be dangerous on your tiny world? Our smallest children could crush your largest predators." Lisa opened her case and pulled out a tablet showing pictures of Earth's oceans. "This is a great white shark. It can grow 20 feet long and has teeth that can bite through steel." The Corthony students looked at the images and made more of those grinding laugh sounds. 20 feet? said Zektar. "Our pet fish are larger than that. And teeth that cut steel? Watch this." The student picked up a metal beam from nearby construction work. His crystal hand squeezed the beam, and it crumpled like paper. "Steel is soft. We are much stronger." Rick opened his case more carefully. Inside were dozens of small containers, each one holding different specimens from Earth. "Size isn't everything," he said. "Some of Earth's most dangerous creatures are very small." "Small?" said a female student who had just joined the group. "I am Nexara Three-Night. Show us these small, dangerous creatures you speak of." Rick pulled out a container so small the aliens had to lean in close to see it. "This contains Pachu digua spiders. They're the smallest spiders on Earth, only about 1/3 of a millimeter long." The Corthony students stared at the tiny container. Crozan picked it up and held it up to the light. "I cannot even see anything inside. How could something so small be dangerous?" "Their venom is very complex," Rick explained. "Even though they're tiny, they can take down prey much larger than themselves." Professor Velthara made a dismissive sound. "Young humans, your world must be incredibly weak if you fear such microscopic creatures. Here on our world, strength comes from size and power. The largest and strongest survive. These tiny things you show us could not harm even our youngest children." Jake felt his face get hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. Earth's evolution worked differently. Our planet has many large predators, so smaller creatures had to develop other ways to survive. Other ways? Laughed Zektar. Like what? Hiding? Running away? Those are not the methods of true survivors. Lisa pulled up more images on her tablet. Chemical warfare. Earth's small creatures developed some of the most complex toxins in the known galaxy. The Corthany students gathered closer, but not out of fear. They seemed amused by what they were hearing. Crozine flexed his massive crystal arms. I have been exposed to the strongest acids in the galaxy. I have survived in the frozen void of space. I have fought creatures that could crush your entire planet. What could these tiny earth bugs possibly do to me? Rick carefully put his specimens back in their cases. That's exactly the kind of thinking that gets people hurt. Just because something is small doesn't mean it's harmless. Prove it, said Nexara, crossing her arms. Show us how dangerous these invisible creatures really are. Professor Velthara nodded in agreement. Yes, I think a demonstration would be educational. Our students need to understand why humans are so afraid of their own planet's life forms. Jake looked at Lisa and Rick with worry in his eyes. This was not going the way they had hoped. The alien students seemed to think Earth was a joke, and their professor was encouraging this attitude. We're not afraid, Jake said firmly. We're careful. There's a big difference. Careful of tiny spiders? Crozon laughed again. I volunteer to face your most dangerous Earth creature. Let us see if these microscopic terrors can do anything to a real warrior. The other students cheered and made excited noises. Professor Velthara smiled, showing crystal teeth. Excellent. We shall arrange a proper scientific demonstration. Our medical facility can monitor everything and ensure complete safety. Rick held his specimen cases closer to his chest. I don't think that's a good idea. These toxins evolved specifically for Earth biology. We don't know how they might affect alien physiology. Exactly our point, said Velthara. They evolved for weak Earth creatures. They will have no effect on superior Corthany biology. As they walked toward the main university building, Jake could hear the alien students talking excitedly behind them. They were planning something, and he had a bad feeling about where this was heading. Earth's reputation in the galactic community was about to be tested in ways he had never imagined. The first week of classes started with the Corthany students showing off their incredible strength. Jake watched from the observation deck as Crozon Valduz stood in the center of the training arena. A machine lowered a tank of bubbling green acid over his head and poured it across his crystal body. The acid that could dissolve metal in seconds simply rolled off Crozon like water. He stood there laughing, while smoke rose from the floor where the acid dripped. Your turn, tiny humans. He called up to the observation deck. Come show us how tough your species really is. Jake shook his head. We'll pass on the acid bath. Thanks. The next demonstration was even more impressive. Nexara 3-Night walked into a freezing chamber where the temperature dropped to -200 degrees. Her crystal body turned a darker blue, but she moved around easily inside the chamber. Ice formed on the walls, but Nexara seemed completely comfortable. On my home world, this is summer weather, she said through the communication system. Earth. Creatures would die instantly in these conditions. Rick Thompson sat next to Jake, taking notes on his tablet. Their biology is incredible. No wonder they think they're invincible. Lisa Monroe pointed to another student who was being hit with energy beams that would vaporize most materials. The beams bounced off his crystal skin like flashlight beams hitting a mirror. They've never encountered anything that could actually hurt them. Professor Velthara stood at the front of the observation deck, clearly proud of her students. As you can see, the Corthany have evolved beyond the weaknesses that plague most species. We have no natural predators because nothing in the universe can threaten us. Jake stood up. Professor, That kind of thinking can be dangerous. Every species has vulnerabilities. Not us, said Zektar Morvain, who had just finished walking through a wall of fire. We conquered 17 different worlds because nothing could stop us. Our warriors are legendary throughout the galaxy. The demonstrations continued for hours. Students survived impacts that would destroy spaceships. They breathed poisonous gases that killed other alien species. They even let massive creatures from their home world attack them, creatures with claws the size of swords and teeth like spears. Nothing hurt them. Now, said Professor Velthara, let us see these terrible earth creatures you brought to frighten us. Rick reluctantly opened his first container. Inside was a preserved great white shark, about 15 feet long. The Corthany students gathered around the display case and studied the predator. This is your most dangerous creature? Asked Kuruzan. It looks like a small fish with too many teeth. Lisa activated a holographic display showing the shark in action. The image showed the predator attacking with incredible speed and power, its jaws crushing through bone and metal. The Corthany students watched politely, but Jake could see they were not impressed. Ziktar pointed at the display. Its bite force is only 18,000 pounds per square inch. I could crush this creature with one hand. Rick tried again with his next specimen. He showed them images of saltwater crocodiles, polar bears, and tigers. Each demonstration got the same response. The alien students calculated the Earth predator's strength and found them all lacking compared to Corthany power. Your largest predator could not even damage our skin, said Nexara. How do humans survive on such a dangerous world when you are so much weaker than these creatures? We use our brains, Jake replied. We developed tools and technology to overcome our physical limitations. Crozan laughed. Hiding behind technology is not true strength. A real warrior faces danger with his own power. Rick moved to his smaller specimens. He showed them venomous snakes, poison dart frogs, and various spiders. The holographic displays demonstrated how these creatures used chemical weapons instead of brute force. Poison? Said Professor Velthara with obvious amusement. We have been exposed to every known toxin in the galaxy. Our crystal biology processes and neutralizes any foreign chemical within minutes. Earth toxins are different, Rick insisted. They evolved over millions of years to be incredibly complex and specific. Zektar picked up one of Rick's specimen containers and examined it closely. Show us your most venomous creature. Let us see this chemical warfare you speak of. Rick hesitated, then pulled out the container with the Pachu digua spiders. The container was so small that the aliens had to use magnifying equipment to see anything inside. Those tiny dots are spiders? Asked Nexara, squinting at the container. They are smaller than dust particles. They're the smallest spiders on Earth, Rick explained. But their venom is incredibly sophisticated. It contains over 200 different compounds designed to shut down nervous systems and break down tissue. The Corthany students passed the container around, each one trying to get a better look at the microscopic spiders. Krausan held it up to the light and shook it gently. I cannot even see them move, he said. How could something so small inject enough venom to hurt anything? That's the beauty of it, Rick said, warming to his subject. They don't need much venom because it's so perfectly designed. Each compound targets a different biological system. Professor Velthara made notes on her own tablet. Interesting from a theoretical standpoint, but hardly relevant to real biology. These creatures might work against other weak Earth species, but they would be completely useless against any properly evolved life form. Jake felt his patience running out. Professor, with respect, you're making assumptions about biology you don't understand. I understand perfectly, she replied coldly. Your world is primitive because it never developed truly superior life forms. Everything on Earth must rely on tricks and deception because nothing there has real strength. Crozan stood up suddenly, his crystal body reflecting the classroom lights. I have an idea. Let us test these Earth weapons against Corthony biology. I volunteer to face your most dangerous spider. The other students cheered excitedly. Nexara clapped her crystal hands. Together, excellent idea. We can finally prove that Earth life is as harmless as it appears. Rick shook his head quickly. That's not a good idea. We don't know how Earth toxins might interact with your biology. Exactly, said Zektar. We will learn something new. Either the venom will have no effect, proving Earth weakness, or it will do something interesting, proving that even your smallest creatures have some value. Professor Velthara nodded approvingly. A proper scientific experiment. We will conduct it in our medical facility with full monitoring and safety protocols. Jake looked at Lisa and Rick with growing alarm. This was getting out of hand quickly. The Corthony were so confident in their superiority that they couldn't see the potential danger. Professor, Lisa tried one more time. These toxins evolved over millions of years to be incredibly effective. Just because they're from Earth doesn't mean they're harmless. My dear humans, Professor Velthara said with condescending patience, you must understand that your perspective is limited by your own weakness. What seems dangerous to you cannot possibly threaten beings like us. Crozan picked up the container. With the tiny spiders again. I insist on this demonstration. I want to show my fellow students that there is nothing in the universe that can harm a Corthony warrior. The classroom fell silent as everyone waited for the professor's decision. Jake could see the excitement in the alien students' eyes. They wanted to prove their superiority over Earth life once and for all. Rick held the spider container tightly, not wanting to let it go, but he was outnumbered and outranked. The demonstration was going to happen whether he liked it or not. The medical facility on Zephoria Prime looked like something from a science fiction movie. Walls made of pure white crystal stretched up to a ceiling that showed real-time images of Crozine-S internal structure. Machines hummed quietly around the examination table, where the massive Corthony student lay waiting. Dr. Seekmore Thalanis, the head of alien medicine, checked his instruments one final time. All monitoring systems are active. We can track every molecule in Crozan-S body and neutralize any foreign substance within seconds. Jake Harrison stood near the back of the room with Lisa and Rick, feeling more worried by the minute. Are you sure about this? We still don't know how Earth toxins might affect crystalline biology. Professor Velthara waved away his concerns. Dr. Thalanis has treated every known form of poisoning in the galaxy. Our medical technology is centuries ahead of anything on Earth. Rick held the small container with the Pachu Digua spider, his hands shaking slightly. The spider inside was so tiny that even under the medical facility's powerful microscopes, it looked like a moving speck of dust. Crozine flexed his massive crystal arms and laughed. I have survived direct hits from plasma cannons. I have walked through acid storms that dissolved mountains. What can one tiny Earth bug possibly do to me? The other Corthony students gathered around the observation windows. Zektar Morvain pressed his face against the glass. This will prove once and for all that Earth life is no threat to superior beings. Nexara 3-Night activated her recording device. I want to document this for our biology archives. Future students will learn how humans fear their own planets. Harmless creatures. Dr. Thalanis approached Rick with a specialized containment field. Place the spider in here. The field will allow us to control its movement and guide it to the test site on Crozan-S arm. Rick carefully transferred the tiny spider into the alien containment system. The spider appeared on the main viewing screen, magnified thousands of times. It looked alien and strange, with 8 legs thinner than human hair and fangs smaller than pinpricks. "Begin the demonstration," ordered Professor Velthara. The containment field moved toward Crozan's outstretched arm. The crystal skin reflected the laboratory lights like a prism, creating rainbow patterns across the walls. Rick could see the spider moving inside the field, probably confused by the alien environment. "Now watch carefully," Dr. Thalanis said. To his students, "When the spider bites, our sensors will immediately detect any foreign chemicals and begin neutralization procedures." The field opened directly above Crozan's arm. The tiny spider dropped onto the crystal surface and immediately began moving around, searching for something familiar. "I cannot even feel it walking on me," Crozan said with amusement. "It weighs less than a feather." Jake held his breath as the spider explored the alien skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the spider found what it thought was a suitable spot and bit down with its microscopic fangs. The bite was so small that even the most sensitive instruments barely registered it. A tiny drop of venom, smaller than a grain of sand, entered Crozan's crystal matrix. "There," said Dr. Thalanis, pointing to his screens. "The bite has occurred. Sensors are detecting foreign proteins entering the subject's system." For the first few minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Crozan continued laughing and joking with his fellow students. The medical monitors showed normal readings for crystalline biology. "As expected," said Professor Velthara with satisfaction. "The Earth toxin is having no effect whatsoever." But Rick noticed something the alien doctors missed. He had spent years studying spider venoms, and he knew they often worked slowly at first. "Dr. Thalanis, are your sensors calibrated for gradual molecular changes?" "Of course," the alien doctor replied. "We can detect changes down to the atomic level." That's when the first alarm went off. A soft beeping sound filled the room as one of the monitors showed an unusual reading. Dr. Thalanis frowned at his display. "Interesting. There appears to be some kind of molecular interaction occurring at the bite site." Jake moved closer to the observation screen. Around the tiny bite mark, hairline cracks were appearing in Crozan's crystal skin. They were so small that only the most powerful microscopes could see them. "What are those lines?" asked Zektar, pointing at the screen. Dr. Thalanis studied his instruments with growing confusion. "The subject's crystal matrix appears to be developing structural weaknesses, but that should be impossible." More alarms began sounding as the cracks spread outward from the bite site. They moved slowly but steadily, following the natural lines of Crozan's crystal structure. Crozan looked down at his arm with the first hint of concern. "I can feel something strange. It's like my arm is becoming ... softer." "Nonsense," said Professor Velthara, but her voice sounded less confident. "Run a full diagnostic. There must be an equipment malfunction." Rick stepped forward. "Professor, I think we need to stop this demonstration immediately. Those cracks are spreading." "The cracks are microscopic," Dr. Thalanis protested. "They cannot possibly threaten the subject's structural integrity." But even as he spoke, the cracks became visible to the naked eye. Thin lines spread across Crozan's crystal arm like a spider web, growing darker and deeper with each passing minute. Lisa Monroe grabbed Jake's arm. "The venom is dissolving his crystal matrix from the inside. It's finding weaknesses in his molecular structure that their medicine doesn't understand." Crozan tried to sit up, but his arm felt wrong. The crystal that had been harder than steel was becoming brittle and weak. "Something is happening to me. The spider poison is doing something impossible." Panic spread through the room as more alarms activated. Dr. Thalanis worked frantically at his controls, trying to understand what was going wrong. "The foreign proteins are bonding with the subject's crystal structure in ways our database doesn't recognize." "Can you neutralize them?" Professor Velthara demanded. "I don't know how. Our antidote systems are designed for biological toxins, not crystalline matrix dissolution. Rick rushed to the medical station. You have to let me help. I know how this venom works. You're just a primitive Earth scientist, Dr. Thalanis snapped. What could you possibly know that our advanced medicine doesn't? The cracks in Crozian's arm suddenly spread faster, racing up toward his shoulder. The massive Corthany student let out a sound of pain and fear that none of his classmates had ever heard before. The structural damage is accelerating, reported one of the medical technicians. If it reaches his central crystal core, we could lose the patient entirely. Nexara pressed against the observation window, her crystal face reflecting terror. Crozan is the strongest warrior in our class. How can a creature smaller than dust be killing him? Jake looked at the spreading cracks and realized the horrible truth. The Pachudigua venom hadn't evolved to fight crystal beings, but it's complex. Protein structure was accidentally perfect for dissolving the molecular bonds that held Corthany bodies together. We need to get him to Earth, Rick said urgently. Our anti-venom research might be able to help him. Earth medicine is primitive compared to ours, Professor Velthara protested, but her voice shook with uncertainty. More cracks appeared on Crozian's chest and neck. The proud warrior who had volunteered to prove his invincibility was slowly dissolving from the inside out, brought down by the smallest spider on Earth. Emergency sirens blared throughout the University Medical Center as Crozian's condition became critical. His crystal body, once considered indestructible, now showed cracks spreading like lightning across his chest and neck. Dr. Thalanis worked frantically at the medical controls while other alien doctors rushed in to help. Patient's structural integrity has dropped to 60% and falling, announced a medical technician. The foreign proteins are attacking his molecular bonds faster than our systems can compensate. Chief Healer Drachmer Sentinus arrived. Within minutes, his massive crystal form moving with urgent purpose. He examined the readings and his glowing eyes widened with shock. In 300 years of medicine, I have never seen anything like this. Jake Harrison pushed through the crowd of panicked Corthany students. Let me contact Earth immediately. Our toxicology experts might know how to help. Earth medicine is centuries behind ours, protested Professor Velthara, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. If our technology cannot fix this, how can your primitive methods possibly help? Rick Thompson was already at the communication station, sending an urgent message through the quantum relay system. Dr. Helen Carter at the Global Venom Research Institute. If anyone can help, it's her. Crozan groaned as more cracks appeared across his torso. The lines were no longer microscopic. They cut deep into his crystal structure, weakening him with every passing minute. I cannot move my left arm. The poison is spreading to my core systems. Zektar Morvain stared at his fellow student in horror. Crozan has survived battles against creatures that could destroy starships. How can something we cannot even see be killing him? Lisa Monroe studied the medical displays, trying to understand the alien technology. The spider venom contains over 200 different compounds. Each one attacks a different part of biological systems. But we are not biological, said Dr. Thalanis. We are crystalline beings. This should not be possible. That's exactly why it's working, Rick explained urgently. Your crystal structure has molecular bonds that the venom proteins can attack. Earth evolution created toxins so complex that they can affect systems they never encountered before. Chief Healer Drachmer ran more tests on Crozan's deteriorating condition. The poison is not just dissolving his crystal matrix. It's preventing the natural repair processes that keep our bodies stable. Nexara Three-Night backed away from the medical table, her own crystal body trembling. If the strongest among us can be destroyed by something so small, what does that say about our superiority? The quantum communication system activated with a burst of static, Dr. Helen Carter's voice came through clearly from Earth, 27 light-years away. I received your emergency transmission. Send me all data on the patient's biology and the venom composition immediately. Dr. Thalanis hesitated. We cannot share our medical secrets with primitive aliens. Then watch your student die, Jake said harshly. Because your advanced medicine obviously cannot handle this Earth toxin, Professor Valthara made the decision. Send the data, all of it. For the next hour, Dr. Carter and her team on Earth analyzed the information while Crozon's condition worsened. The cracks in his crystal body deepened and spread. His vital signs, displayed on alien monitors, showed systems failing one by one. Patient's structural integrity is now at 30%, reported a medical technician. If we cannot stop the dissolution process, he will not survive another hour. Dr. Carter's voice returned through the communication system. I think I understand what's happening. The Pachu-Digua venom contains proteins that bind to silicon-based crystal structures. Your patient's body is essentially being dissolved by compounds that evolved to break down insect exoskeletons. Can you create an antidote? Asked Chief Healer Drakmer. Not exactly an antidote, but a neutralizing agent. However, it requires combining Earth pharmaceutical techniques with your healing technology. The treatment must be administered through your crystal matrix repair systems. Rick leaned toward the communicator. Dr. Carter, what do you need from us? I'm sending you the molecular formula for a compound that should bind to the venom proteins and neutralize them. But you'll need to synthesize it using their medical equipment and introduce it directly into the patient's crystal structure. Doctor. Thalanis looked at the complex chemical formula appearing on his screens. This is unlike anything in our medical database. How do we know it will not make things worse? Because your patient is dying anyway, Lisa pointed out. This is his only chance. Zektar moved closer to the medical table where his friend lay suffering. Crozan, can you hear me? The wounded Corthany student opened his dimming eyes. I was wrong, old friend. Size and strength mean nothing if you do not understand your enemy. Save your energy, said Dr. Thalanis as he began preparing the Earth-designed treatment. We are going to try something that has never been attempted. Before, the synthesis process took precious time while Crozan's condition continued to deteriorate. His crystal body, once perfect and strong, now looked like a statue about to crumble. Cracks covered every surface, and some pieces had already begun to fall away. Compound synthesis complete, announced the technician. Beginning introduction. Through the crystal matrix repair system. Jake watched nervously as alien medical technology combined with Earth pharmaceutical knowledge. Tubes and energy fields surrounded Crozan's body, feeding the neutralizing compound directly into his crystal structure. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, the cracks stopped spreading. The dissolution process slowed and finally halted as the Earth compound bound to the spider venom proteins. Structural integrity has stabilized at 25%, reported Dr. Thalanis with amazement. The foreign proteins are being neutralized, but Crozan was not recovering. He lay motionless on the medical table, his crystal body severely damaged. Chief Healer Drakmer studied the readings with concern. We have stopped the poison, but the patient has lost too much of his crystal matrix. Full recovery will require months of treatment, and his body will never be the same. Nexara touched the medical table gently. Will he live? Yes, said Dr. Thalanis. But he will carry the scars of this encounter for the rest of his life. Professor Valthara stood quietly in the corner, watching her strongest student lying, broken by a creature smaller than a grain of sand. We severely underestimated Earth life, she admitted finally. Dr. Carter's voice came through the communicator one more time. The treatment will need to continue for several days. I'm sending detailed protocols for managing crystalline matrix reconstruction using Earth pharmaceutical principles. Jake looked around the room at the sobered alien students. Their attitudes had changed completely in just a few hours. Earth evolution is different from yours. We didn't develop through size and strength. We developed through adaptation and survival. Zektar nodded slowly. Your smallest creatures carry weapons that our strongest warriors cannot defend against. We called you primitive, but perhaps we are the ones who lack understanding. Rit carefully sealed the spider container. This is why we respect all life. On Earth, no matter how small, every creature there had to develop incredible abilities just to survive. As medical teams worked to save Crozan's life, word of the incidents spread throughout the university. The Corthony students who had mocked Earth's weak creatures now understood that they had encountered something far more dangerous than they ever imagined. The demonstration had gone horribly wrong, but it taught a lesson that would change how the galaxy viewed Earth forever. 3 weeks after the demonstration, Crozan Valduz sat in the university's recovery ward, his crystal body slowly healing. The cracks that had nearly killed him were filling in with new crystal growth, but the lines remained visible like silver. Scars across his skin. He would carry these marks for the rest of his life as a reminder of his encounter with Earth's smallest predator, Dr. Helen. Carter arrived on Zephyria Prime aboard the first Earth medical transport ship ever to visit the Phi alien world. She brought with her a team of toxicology experts and several cases of Earth antivenom, compounds that had been modified for crystalline biology. The patient's recovery has been remarkable, she told Chief Healer Drakmer as they reviewed Crozan's medical files. The combination of Earth pharmaceutical knowledge and Corthony healing technology has created entirely new treatment possibilities. Jake Harrison watched through the observation window as Dr. Carter examined Crozan. The massive Corthony student was sitting up for the first time since the incident, though he moved carefully to avoid stress on his healing crystal matrix. Professor Harrison, Crozan said when he noticed Jake watching. I owe you and your team my life. Jake entered the recovery room with Lisa and Rick. You don't owe us anything. We're just glad Dr. Carter was able to help. Crozan flexed his scarred arm slowly. I have learned something important. True strength is not about size or power. It is about understanding and respecting the dangers around you. Zektar Morvain entered the room carrying a large data tablet. I have been studying Earth's evolutionary history since the incident. Your planet's development is fascinating and terrifying. What did you learn? Asked Lisa. Earth is what galactic biologists call a death world, Zektar explained. Your planet has experienced multiple mass extinction events, forcing life to develop incredible survival mechanisms. Every creature there is essentially a living weapon designed by millions of years of evolutionary warfare. Rick nodded. That's why we try to respect all life, no matter how small. On Earth, the most innocent-looking creatures can be the most dangerous. Exara Three Knight joined the group, her crystal body reflecting the soft light of the recovery ward. I have requested a transfer to Earth studies. I want to learn more about chemical warfare in biology. You want to study on Earth? Jake asked with surprise. If Professor Velthara will allow it. I realize now that we have much to learn from your world. Professor Velthara entered the recovery room with several university administrators. She looked older somehow, as if the incident had aged her. The Galactic Academic Council has approved Earth's full membership in the consortium. You are no longer exchange students. You are permanent faculty. Jake felt a surge of pride. What changed their minds? The Crozan incident has become famous throughout the galaxy, Professor Velthara explained. 27 different worlds have requested information about Earth's biological warfare capabilities. The Council realizes that your planet represents a unique form of evolution that we must study and understand. Dr. Carter finished her examination of Crozon and approached the group. I've established a permanent research station here to study how Earth toxins interact with different alien biologies. This could revolutionize medicine throughout the galaxy. Chief Healer Drakmer nodded in agreement. We are already developing new treatments based on Earth pharmaceutical principles. What we thought was primitive medicine has opened entirely new fields of study. Crozon stood up slowly, testing his strength. His crystal body still showed the spider web pattern of scars, but he moved with confidence. I want to make a formal declaration. The room fell silent as the massive Korthany student faced the human professors. In the tradition of my people, I offer you the debt of life. You saved me when our own medicine failed. I am bound to you by honor. He reached into a pouch at his side and pulled out several crystal fragments. These are pieces of my own body that broke away during the dissolution. In Korthany culture, they represent the highest gift of respect and gratitude. Jake accepted the crystal fragments with appropriate solemnity. They were warm to the touch and seemed to glow with their own inner light. We're honored by your gift, Crozon. There is more, Crozon continued. I am renouncing my warrior training to study Earth biology. I want to understand the world that created such incredible creatures. Zektar activated his data tablet and showed them a holographic display. Look at these statistics. In just 3 weeks, enrollment in Earth studies has increased by 400%. Students from 17 different worlds want to learn about your planet's evolution. The irony is beautiful, said Nexara. We thought Earth was primitive because its creatures were small and weak. But those same creatures developed the most sophisticated biological weapons in the known galaxy. Dr. Carter packed up her medical equipment. I'll be shuttling between Earth and Zephyria Prime for the next several months, training your medical staff in toxicology. We're going to establish the first interspecies medical research program. Lisa looked out the window at the alien campus, where Korthany students now walked alongside beings from dozens of other worlds. This is bigger than just Earth joining the consortium. We're changing how the entire galaxy thinks about evolution and biology. Rick secured his specimen containers carefully. No more demonstrations with live toxins, though. We've proven our point. Professor Valthara smiled for the first time since the incident. Agreed. From now on, all Earth biological studies will be conducted with proper safety protocols and deep respect for the dangers involved. A young Korthany student entered the recovery room nervously. Professors, the new exchange students from Andromeda, Prime have arrived. They want to know if they can see the famous Earth specimens that nearly killed a Korthany warrior. Crozon laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in the wind. Tell them they can look, but only from a safe distance. Earth's smallest creatures command the highest respect. Jake gathered his team around him. Are you ready for the next group of students? As long as they understand the rules, Rick replied. Look, but don't touch. Learn, but don't underestimate. And never, ever volunteer to test an Earth toxin. Lisa nodded toward the window where alien students from across the galaxy were gathering to catch a glimpse of the humans who had brought down the mighty Korthany with a spider smaller than a dust mote. I think word has spread pretty effectively. Zektar updated his data files. The incident has been documented in 17 languages and broadcast to 43 worlds. Everyone knows about the day Earth's smallest spider nearly killed the galaxy's strongest warrior. Good, said Jake. Maybe now they'll understand that evolution isn't about being the biggest or strongest. It's about being perfectly adapted to survive. Dr. Carter prepared to leave for her next appointment with another recovering patient. I have 12 other cases of alien students who are exposed to various Earth toxins in unauthorized experiments. Word spreads fast, but so does curiosity. And stupidity, added Rick. We're going to be very busy teaching proper safety protocols. Crozan stood at the window, looking out at the campus where his fellow students were learning to respect creatures they had once considered insignificant. My people believed that size and strength determined worth. Earth has taught us that the most important qualities are often invisible. Professor Velthara reviewed the new curriculum proposals. Earth. Studies will now be mandatory for all students. Every species in the galaxy needs to understand that survival comes in many forms. As the group prepared to leave the recovery ward, Crozan called out one final time. Professor Harrison, when will you return to Earth? We're not going back. Jake replied, This is our home now. We have too much work to do here. Good, said the scarred Korthani warrior. Because I have 1,000 questions about your death world, and I want to make sure I never underestimate anything from Earth ever. Again, the humans left the recovery ward, knowing that they had changed the galaxy's understanding of Earth forever. What had started as a simple academic exchange had become a revolution in thinking about evolution, biology, and the true meaning of strength. And somewhere in Rick's carefully secured specimen cases, the tiny Pachu Digua spiders went about their business, completely unaware that they had brought the galaxy's mightiest warriors to their knees and earned Earth a permanent place among the stars.